Hello, 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 dear friends. Hey, this is another segment of Talk to Me, Dad. And I'm pretty pumped up about this in a really interesting way. More so, this is a dear beloved who we have been wanting to get for a while. And as we are getting recognition too in the process of doing this, is that it's all about perfect timing. Sometimes it's not about what we want, but Spirit always set things up in a way that is so beyond our understanding. So I'm so humbled by this. So I'm going to have this pleasure and a delightful opportunity to say, hey, I want to welcome you all to this beautiful soul by the name of Pat Hall. How you doing, Pat?
I'm doing well.
Yeah,
Thanks for
you
having
are.
me.
Yeah, you are, man. Again, I am honored.
Yeah,
Having
me
the
too.
pleasure over the years of seeing you in the community as a singer, sometimes in being in your presence or also watching you perform, it is more than just a singer. And what I mean by that is it's a very hypnotic state. You have a very unique style. If I am to put it in a category, I kind of think of someone like one of the minds that comes or person comes in my mind is Paul Simon in terms of the tonality that you carry. But I feel this storyteller, you know, and this storyteller has an amazing story to tell. So let me just ask one question from the very beginning. I haven't asked this question at all in talking to dads.
Yeah.
What is your meaning, or is there a meaning of being a father?
Being a father to me is not a passive role. And the big variable that I come to, that when I look around our community, society, is time. And I wanted to make sure, having children, that I had time with them, space, time to be with them in the mornings, to cook for them, to speak with them, to listen to them. And for me, the meaning of fatherhood is carving out time on a daily basis to have them as number one priority. And I shaped my life to make that happen. So yes, I teach. I know we have to work. I know there's also some privileged element to trying to create time for yourself to spend with your kids. But so many times in family systems that time is compromised, and there's no foundation there with our relationship with our children. And so that's what I want to build as a father. That's the meaning to me, is that I have a responsibility to not just provide financially and create what we think is security and stability, but to create time and space for my kids.
Was that provided to you as a child?
No. I think to the best of their ability. Both my parents were musicians and they were teaching out of the house. And so my mother, for instance, was there in the house, but there wasn't that actual time and connection. And so I felt I was learning most about the world, not through my parents, but through other systems, friend groups, school. And I've craved that. And I want that for my kids. I want me to be the source. I trust myself to be their source.
I see you and Noah almost
Yeah.
on a regular basis, and
Yeah.
now with the little one, with mommy, you know, you all come strolling through, come to the park, which is right next to me, and I get the pleasure of watching you all from a distance.
Yeah.
So with you having that opportunity to, in some ways, we as parents, we start grooming. And also the exploration of the child. You're identifying this person and what they gravitate to. How's all this been going for you, man, as dad?
Yeah, that balance of showing them, teaching them what you know versus watching and observing what they're naturally gravitating toward. I think that's what your question is
Yes.
about, navigating that balance. And again, that time, that variable that I come back to of understanding what they gravitate to takes time. It takes time to observe, to listen, to watch, attentively about the things that are calling to. For instance, Noah. I mean, my other two kids are a little bit too young to see that quite yet. But with Noah, I'm able to, for instance, with cooking, what he likes to cook, what he likes to eat, what he likes to do with his spare time, the books that he likes to read, and not trying to shape and mold that, but to have my behavior mold to what he is wanting. So yeah, that's what I learned through parenting is I have an impulse to show and to teach and to guide, but I'm trying to get better at stepping back and letting Noah show me what he wants. And we talked about this before the interview, is that idea of choice, asking him questions. We have 2 hours of spare time when I get home from work. What do you want to do? Right? I know what I want. I want to go out to the park and play and run around, show him some different skills with soccer, baseball, but what do you want to do? And I've learned how to skateboard, I've tried to learn how to scooter, all these things that I would never naturally do because that's what he asked for. So I think he feels empowered and heard when I take a back seat and I'm following him. I mean, we'll literally walk out of the house with our scooters and I'll say, you lead the way, and I'll follow him. And I can see him kind of light up and feel like he's more a part of our family system and a part of the world when he's in charge in those ways.
I believe it was Michael Jordan
Yeah.
or Dr. J. It's one of the two, but I think it was Michael. He said he learned from his children because his children would say, Dad, could you just jump up and spin around and do a flip and do that? He said, now, the stuff they ask me to do, I know I cannot do.
Yeah.
But I'll try it.
Yeah.
For them, just for their own satisfaction.
That's
and so
right.
he said, I became, quote unquote, this freak of nature. But it was mostly a motivation just from, my kids.
Right.
So to hear, like you say, you want to go out and you get to mold this mind and asking them and seeing where they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been challenged in that way, in a really fun way, because he loves to build and likes to paint and draw too, and those two things are not what I was taught, not what I gravitate to. And we'll just tinker around with stuff, and I find myself getting more relaxed that I'm not in control as a parent. And I think that's where our best parenting comes from, is when we're in a mode where we don't feel like we need to control an outcome for our kids. And so if I do get into those modes where he's guiding the decision making and we're building something or painting or drawing and I don't know what I'm doing, and that's when he'll give me advice on something, what I'm drawing, or if we're outside, playing with building like little birdhouse thing or some sort of garden bed or something, and we're learning together, or he's teaching me. Those are some of my most relaxed times as a parent.
What is your demonstration to your son as a dad, as a father, with your relationship with the mom? And for you, it would be with two moms. And so, what demonstration do you feel in revealing to him what it's like to treat a woman? Being able to tap into your feminine, being able to hold into a quality that will suffice him once he become an adult.
Well, I think there's some simplicity in that answer, in the sense that I show by example with my current wife how to treat anybody, which is simple things. And I go back to basics of listening, not interrupting, never minimizing. These little things he might not be able to state are happening, but he feels the way that I honor my wife's or anybody's thought process or experience. So and of course that's time too. Again, back to that variable. He's able to witness in the mornings, and when I come home from work after school, how I interact, and that's through example. I've never actually had to have a talk with him about how to treat somebody else, because one, I've never seen Noah treat anybody in a way that would warrant me to correct it, because he embodies that solid listening, and he has a huge empathic heart. And I'm not sure I'm responsible for that. That's just who he is as a person. But I show that by example. I show that to him every day by the work I put into my communication habits. When we sit down to eat, and how I listen, And that's something I consciously work on every day. It's a muscle I have to flex. Just like empathy and listening, these are things that are in jeopardy every day with how whatever this thing is with phone addiction or constant distractions, is to every day note that kids are picking up every moment that they're seeing with how we interact with our partners. And that's an important thing for me, for him to witness that health. And I every day I wake up thinking about that, what he sees, and how I love my wife.
And I guess the ultimate gift is what they see. Because you got 3, because they all are watching.
They all are, yeah. And I mentioned just now because we're able to.
Yeah.
We're conversing.
Whenever. What is interesting is, first of all, just to say, we're here at Chico State, here in Chico. This is a university here. And Pat is also a nonviolent communicator. That's what he teaches here at this college. So when you say that you work that muscle every day, a lot of people don't get to work that muscle, or they're working it unconsciously, and where you're consciously working that muscle. And I can just recall on myself, I have to just have my moment of flashback as you were sharing, as a therapist, counselor, working, quote unquote, in the hood and raising 4 children. I, as we say, we demonstrate to our children. And one day my youngest daughter, I was talking to her, and she asked me a question. I said, "So you are asking me," and I repeated back what she said. She just looked at me. And she asked me another question. I said, "So what you are saying is," and she stopped me. She said, "I am not one of your clients. Do not talk to me like you talk to your clients. I want my dad."
Whoa.
And man, that threw me back. It was like, okay, how, and I realized I began to play a role. Naturally, by the law of nature, we are in role, but I began to take on these particular skills to improve communication, and she saw through it, because she saw, and it was effective, but I understood what she was saying. And it's like, you can pretty much ask me those questions, this is my words, but I want to hear Dad. I miss the playful, you know what I mean? So it was like being skillful, and I had to like really pay attention, because she didn't want to be repeated. So I'm going to get into the story, man, about you, the recent challenge that you were. I'm going to look at it, and I'm assuming just knowing how your heart is in some ways, this blessing that was bestowed upon you that appeared to have been major conflict internally, and to us in the community, we weren't sure that you were going to make it. This health piece, and you expressed to me some of it, and if you don't mind, to the audience, you can just tell us what it was that you had, and I just have some questions on the other side of where you are with it.
Yeah. So I think it goes back a little further than what happened, because I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 12. And since then, there's always been...
Let me ask.
Yeah.
So when you say type 1 diabetes, I've heard the different levels of it. I'm going to go back to basics.
Yeah.
What does that mean? And at that age, it would kind of trip me out as an adult. Go, a 12-year-old with...
Yeah. So without getting too scientific, I'll just say that I need insulin to survive.
Okay.
And it's different than type 2 diabetes in that sometimes the pancreas can be healed for type 2 diabetics and they don't always need insulin, and sometimes it can be taken in pill form. Type 1 diabetes is a little bit more serious in the sense that if we don't get insulin, our body will start to die. So which is quite an existential sort of crisis to think about, is that if I don't have this vial that I carry around, in 2 weeks, maybe I would probably less than that be dead. So I've been living in this, at least it feels in my body, a foot in this world and a foot out since I was young. That's what it feels like. That I have this thread, this vial of insulin that's able to keep me here. Without that vial, I fade away. I die. I start the dying process. So I've been in the hallway, and recently I've been closer. I've been in the doorway of exiting because of this brain bleed that I had in June. I was playing soccer and I felt this pop in the back of my neck. As it was happening, I knew there was something wrong, and I went into the hospital, and there was this perception, because I looked healthy, I was young, that I couldn't possibly be having a stroke at that time. That must be heat stroke or dehydration. And I was discharged. I went home. Something's wrong. It was just, the pain was unreal. And I went back, and that's when they found, through a CT scan, this brain bleed. And I was life flighted to UCSF. And I was in ICU for 2 weeks. And during that time, they were watching me, because during any moment in this 2-week period, something can shift, where I could lose the ability to speak or lose the ability to walk, neurological function. So psychologically, it was a stressor, saying, all right, is today the day where there'll be something that occurs where I'll lose some bodily function? And at the end of that 2 weeks, they say, well, the blood is dissolving back into your body from your brain, and we're going to move you to transitional care. And then after 2 days, I was going home in tons of pain. But the hard part was over, in the sense that, one, I wasn't going to die, and two, the likelihood of me having further deficits, as they called it, from having language loss or loss of mobility was very minimal. So I was on my way home. But in that 2-week process was whoa. And I don't even know where to start with my process of accepting that this could potentially end. Yeah.
I guess the ultimate question comes to everybody when, quote unquote, these near-death experiences come in. What, in your language, what has awakened for you in knowing that you have been given another opportunity? I mean, like, what is that stir, of your purpose of being here?
We were saying earlier about the certain parts of existence that there's no language for. And I think that's definitely true about my experience with this brain bleed, when I felt and almost tasted dying. It was so palpable. And I was outside of the world of describing what that felt like. When I started to heal in the ICU, there were a couple things that just affirmed my purpose as an artist. And one was that
And that's the piece I want to know about.
the only thing I was obviously thinking pragmatically about being home and being a dad, but the whole time I was in that process of kind of on the precipice of it all. I was listening to so much music, and all of the power that comes from music specifically was so intense and affirming to the importance of artists. It was literally healing me in that space, and it was also making it, the idea of dying wasn't lost on me. I wasn't like, I'm gonna make this. I was thinking I might not, and if I wasn't, I was feeling obviously depressed and sad about leaving my family, but I was also okay in the sense that I knew I put my energy in this life toward important use. And all of the other artists in the community and everything that I've listened to, and specifically playing this Bob Dylan Oh Mercy album, I was just crying hysterically listening to it, just the offering that that album made to what it means to be human. And all of the artists that uplifted me and donated to the GoFundMe, and I was in this space of seeing art at a much more powerful level than I ever was in a non-dying state. And to anyone that is a creator, that kind of, and we can all question that process at times because it's a struggle. Art is a struggle. But it's important, at least from someone that was in that space, on that precipice. I can't tell you how factual it is that art is the most honest communicator and the most important communicator that I think we have for this experience. And that was affirmed in that time. And to answer your initial question about what it stirred in you, I think it affirmed what I already knew, but to a more potent level, that it is, like we were talking about before this interview, the artist's responsibility to transcend culture, to try to put a mirror to the culture and help people remember. And I was in that swirl of music during that time, and it got me through, and all of the artists in the community helped get me through. So yes, message being, keep creating. Creators, it's a struggle, it's hard, but it's so important. And I was okay with dying, knowing that would be what I could leave. And that was enough, you know? And I think it is enough when you create.
Wow, you tapped it into a lot of different spaces with me, and I think it's really, really ideal in terms of talk to me, Dad, meaning before your children, this music was your child.
Mm-hmm.
It was something that got midwifed and born in you as an extension from your family tree. mom an organ player, dad a singer, voice coach, you begin to cultivate this love and understanding that this is a gift, a purpose, and to know that the possibility, as some would say, I didn't get to sing all of my songs, or there's some who have transitioned and didn't get to do that, but it sounds like your recommitment to this particular birth of this child, to daddy, this institution inside of you, in the eyes or the ears of some people, they will go, wow, you know, I like what you said in phrase there. It's not that I didn't think about my family. I didn't, before your family, before the children, this was. And so to hear your nurturing of that, and I know you as a father, it's like to know that you have always taken the time out to show up for your family, and to know that this was the possibility of all of that being taken away from you or transitioned from you, that your first love, your music, that baby, that birth that you've given life to me as a person also I know that will never ever not deny the children that you brought onto this planet. And I'm just trying to find words to feel that feeling that I feel as though the audience may take it in a way, you know. And as artisans, that which I've been gifted as a performer and a dancer, I have sacrificed a lot in that space to maintain a body, a spirit, and energy, even down to doing this. So I guess I'm just saying to the audience, to all of us out there as artisans, I'm just giving recognition to your love of you have come to this space of knowing that that purpose is even stronger now inside of you. So therefore, you become the demonstrator for whatever it is that Noah and the other two may gravitate towards in their life. Because the gift of this opportunity here, this is going to be around when you're not here.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, and that's the affirming thing is, I think that if death is going to happen, and I'm already on borrowed time from my perception of me being type 1 diabetic. I've already won, as Neil Young said. And there's a sadness in that moment, at least, of, oh my God, my kids won't have their father, but they will through art. Art is there, and obviously it's not enough. And the tragedy of me dying, if I did die, would be so intense. But at least I had that thing to offer them, that they could hear me, that they could listen to these songs. And the songs really are about a byproduct of struggle. You know, when I went through a major depression in college, that's where I found people say, where did you find your voice? Out of total darkness, total utter struggle. And I think if that's the thing that you say is hypnotic, or that you're drawn to when you hear it, then if I'm gone, my kids might hear that too when they're struggling. And that's what I mean is, when I was struggling in ICU, I heard it in songs. And it was revitalizing me. It was giving me actual strength. And if that was something that I gave in my time here, I wish I could be here. But if I wasn't, then my music hopefully will help people through the trials of what it means to be human, as music did for me when it hit me in my early 20s, you know. And And that's where it became a little bit more relaxed in that healing process, or even in the intense pain, was you did enough. You did all you could do.
Mm.
And I think I don't know enough about regrets and what people might feel as they're dying, or but if you've created and you've put effort toward some creative process, I'm not sure there's anything to regret.
So with that particular statement, the energetics that has come from that, I want you to offer a gift. And this gift that I'm going to have you come to a closure with is, I want you to speak to the 20-year-old Noah, the 15 or 17-year-old of your other two gifted beloveds. Now, because this piece, they can have the opportunity to see this 20 years from now, or 30 years from now, or when you have already transitioned as well as myself. What would it that you would love to share with him? And you can look in the camera, either one. And to your beloved.
Oh man, that's hard. Work hard, keep creating. Simple. Work hard, keep creating. If you could offer what I got in the ICU, being so close to dying, and then being totally moved and healed through music and art, if you could offer that to someone else, I mean that's that's what we're doing for each other, right? I maybe did that for somebody, but I know I received that from songs that I listened to, from even just the artists that were reaching out to me, and then me remembering their creations or their art. That was what was helping me through. That was what felt worthwhile. And what's worthwhile to me, I can't say to my kids is what's worthwhile to them. That's only my experience. Is that at the end of what I thought was my life, that was what was swirling around me. That was the truths that I was experiencing, and what was making the process of dying feel okay. Again, we'll go back to the idea. It was so hard to put into language what it is I went through, and even any advice seems so down here compared to what we already know without words.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And that's very well said. I like how you said that, because it is a knower.
Yeah.
And it's not about finding language to articulate it. It's the knower. So with that being said, wow, I just want to say thank you, audience, for your patience in receiving this. But man, I just want to thank you. I mean, you've given me a lot to contemplate on, to appreciate, as well as a deeper love for you, man. You know, and just feeling your process and understanding your journey, you know? Yeah. And so I just want to say thank you. It's not just about the words, it's the knower that you can speak of. You know? So much gratitude, beloved.
Yes. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you.